Okay, everyone, this is my spoiler review of Sunny Episode 6. As always, please no book spoilers in the comments. So, in an out of left field kind of opening, which I really liked because it's always surprising you, this show, we see that Noriko is trying to steal an anime porn magazine. And I love that the cash register worker does not even pay attention to this. She actually has to really get his attention by actually walking outside and eating bread to get arrested on purpose. So this makes sense now when you connect the dots, because last episode it ended with Noriko calling this mysterious number that clearly has to do something with Masa, and that she is afraid of somebody, and that is why she is going to jail. So, just off the bat, what I loved about this episode is it really progressed the plot a lot. We got some answers here, and there was some really good suspense. I also want to give a shout out to the actress of Mixie in this episode, Anna the Clumsy. I think all season she's been amazing, but in particular in this episode, I thought she was absolutely excellent. But we'll see Mixie and Susie go to the police now with the note that they got when Sunny was kidnapped from the Yakuza, and also had the finger with it, but the note said, "Do not go to the police," but they go to the police. And Susie will slowly reveal to the detective that it's actually a homebot that was kidnapped that they're talking about, because at first he thought it was a person. Susie assumes, though, that he has the neck brace from the Yakuza, but he says it was a bathroom accident. And he goes, "It's very common losing a homebot. No need to feel embarrassed." And Susie goes, "Says the man who can't take a piss without hurting himself." Rashida Jones delivers those dry lines perfectly. But you see that Susie will walk past a poster of this mascot, Takimaro, who she's about to run into outside. Also, while this was happening, Mixie left at some point. So they're always teasing you that like Mixie is up to something, that she's a little sketchy. But I definitely think this is always a misdirect, because at the end of the day, they already showed you, especially in the last episode, these powerful moments her and Mixie had together, especially getting away from the bear and the talk they had in the woods, that I don't think they would just make Mixie up to something bad. If anything, she might have started on something bad and then eventually turned around and stopped. So we'll see. That might be the case, but most likely I think she's all good here. But you see, the phone call she got, she says, is that Ichiro has diarrhea, which is the other bar assistant, so he can't be there for this important photo shoot for the bar, so she's got to take his place. But Susie really snaps here at Mixie and says maybe Sunny's right. Maybe you are slippery. So pretty harsh, especially with the bonding they had last episode. But that's also the state of mind Susie's in right now, and that she's thinking she's going to be killed, and she's also going through grief at the same time. I love the funniest line of this episode is when the mascot Takamaro goes to give her a manju, and she says, "F off, Humpty Dumpty." But the manju is a piece of Sunny. And this mascot gives this threat to keep destroying Sunny unless she goes to the vegetable stand. So Susie knows she needs Sunny because she has Masa's memories. But what I think this episode is really revealing is that isn't the only reason. I think she is getting closer and closer to Susie and cares about Susie and coming around on homebots, and that there is some kind of connection here, that Susie's filling a little bit of that empty nest for Zen not being around. And I think that was kind of shown visually at the end of the episode when we see her looking at the different heights of Zen, and where he left off in height is actually looks like the same exact height that Sunny is. So I don't think that's an accident. And you see how upset she is when Sunny is messed up at the end. And it wasn't just an upset about losing these memories. She's actually caring about Sunny. Now, Mixie was trying to protect Susie from just thinking irrationally and going like too manic here. And Susie doesn't listen, goes to the vegetable stand, and gets kidnapped. And we see she's brought to Masa's computer, and they try to face scan her to get it unlocked. And the reason they first try that is because Himé knows her face has opened doors before. We saw this preview as she got into that secret area where we saw Imatech workers doing these workouts, and also these mysterious hallway with rooms. Now, Susie straight up accuses Himé of killing her family on flight 405, but Himé denies this. So Himé will be the first one who drives at Susie's psyche, and Susie will give it back to her, but she says Susie likes homebots even though she says she doesn't. She even mentions that she sleeps in bed with one and says it's feeding her lies about the Yakuza. So this, again, adding more to the reveal that she does actually care about Sunny in this episode. And Himé will say she was at Masa's funeral because she was an admirer of his work. But Himé will continue to pull at Susie more about how she did not know what Masa did for a living for a full decade, and kind of playing at the denial part of Susie's psychology. And she says, "Where did you think he was going every day? Or did you just not care?" Were you just so lonely you can fall in love with someone you didn't even know? So this is what I'm talking about, just kind of breaking down at those dark thoughts that Susie might be having, and Himé's trying to pull them out. But Susie will get this same kind of psychology breaking down back on Himé here. When the earpiece translator is taken out of her ear, what they do really cool here is in the subtitles, they actually just show us what they're saying that Susie recognizes, not the full Japanese. So she recognizes your father, ... I am sorry for your loss. So Susie attacks now, and she's like, so who's going to take over for your dad now that he's passed? And she brings up when she was at the bathhouse, she overheard the Yakuza talking about woman wanting to be the next boss and calling her Busu, which translates to ugly woman. And one guy said they're not to worry about the Busu, he will take care of it. And this, of course, really hits a soft spot for Himé and nails it, and she slaps her. So she goes with plan B now, Himé, to get Susie to crack on this passcode and threatens Mixie's life. So I wonder if she didn't threaten Mixie's life, if Susie was willing to just die at that moment and give up the passcode. I'd like to hear your guys' theories and thoughts on that. So I love the suspense in the scene when the first passcode guess is wrong and then the drill comes out. That's when it really ramps up. But I love that she thinks of the finger greeting she gives back to Masa, and it's a good payoff from having little things like that we saw in the first episode in flashbacks come full circle with meaning. And I think that's a really special part of the show, and that they're really good at doing that a lot, setting things up with great payoffs. And I love she gives the finger to Himé first before she gives it to the computer. But this should mean that the Yakuza will have access now to the dark manual, and obviously Himé is going to use this to be in power as like this is what she got done. Now Susie will come home to Mixie, who is fine, and tells her she gave them the code because they were going to kill Mixie. But it also shows Mixie how much Susie has come around and cares about Mixie, even though she could be really nasty to her. And while this is happening, Susie gets a call that her mother-in-law is in jail. And I love how great the actress of Noriko is with her line delivery and how humorous her scenes are. And she's like, did you bring the shogi board? That's literally the first thing she asks her. She's like, the ladies are having a tournament, and we know how much Noriko loves to play games with the older ladies. And another great line delivery is Rashida Jones here in The Reflection, where she's like, Noriko, you're in jail. I love how this show always keeps a true mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship going throughout. That never doesn't feel like that. But Susie puts it together and she's like, did you get yourself locked up on purpose? And she's like, of course not. Why would I do that? But then when Susie says a possibility of her not being safe, this is when Noriko is showing a little bit more of her true thoughts and is worried. So it's going to be interesting to see who Noriko is really hiding from and who was that phone call to. Is that the same person, clearly? Now, while Susie is gone, Mixie will find the note from Yakuza at Susie's that just comes in to go to the temple now. Mixie brings a knife, another intense suspense scene, which was, this episode was full of them, which was great. It was like a 30-minute adrenaline rush this episode. And she finds Sunny, who's completely broken down. So she brings Sunny home to Susie, and Sunny just crashes on the floor. So this is the big cliffhanger at the end of the episode, that Sunny has been tampered with by the Yakuza, may not work anymore. So we'll see what happens with Sunny and how she could be if they do fix her. But I thought this was a really strong episode. I think that it had such a good pace to it for 30 minutes. It just felt like a suspenseful episode, that where last episode was more reflective, this episode had more action and answers to it and things kind of hitting the fan. And this is a 10-episode season, remember? So this is the perfect spot right at episode 6 to kind of ramp things up now and get it moving, which I think it needed to a bit at the point we were at. So this really was what I would love to see happen after last week's, which I like, but again, it was a slower pace where this picked it up. So that's always kind of nice too, to spread our episodes at different paces, kind of make up for slower time with faster time and vice versa. So I think that overall the humor again is still doing great, and you have great 3 leads here carrying it with Noriko, Susie, and Mixie. They are all doing amazing and very fascinating characters. So really solid episode. I'm giving this one an 8.7. Let me know what you thought of it down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment, try to respond as many as I can. Hit that sub button so you don't miss one of my reviews of Sunny. I'm also reviewing House of the Dragon, and I have celebrity interviews as well you're going to check out. And I also do movie reviews on my shorts. And I'll see you next time.